I always believed that silence could shield me from storms. That if I kept my heart steady, if I stitched every wound with patience, life would eventually be kind. But I was wrong. Silence, I learned, only made betrayal quieter, more deliberate, like a dagger slipped beneath the ribs without a sound. My name is Elena, and this is the story of how I lost my husband to another woman, only to make sure she lost far more than I ever did. It began with small things. A shift in his gaze. The way Daniel lingered with his reflection, adjusting his collar as though the mirror had become a lover. The faint perfume clinging to his cuffs, nothing I owned, nothing I wore. I told myself it was work. He was a lawyer, often away at late dinners with clients, the scent of wine and strangers never far from him. But I knew. God help me, I knew. The final confirmation arrived not in words, but in a smile. She was there at his firm's gala. A woman with dark hair that gleamed like lacquer, lips painted the red of forbidden fruit. She laughed at something he said, and in that moment, Daniel's lips curved with hers. The exact same curve, as though her joy were siphoned straight from his mouth. My chest tightened. I felt my pulse in my throat. That smile did not belong to her, yet she wore it like a stolen crown. Her name was Lydia. And Lydia smiled with my husband's lips. The days that followed dragged like rusted chains. I cooked his meals, folded his shirts, pressed his ties, and all the while I felt like a woman dressing a corpse. His laughter was gone from our home, but I knew where it lived, curled against hers, breathing into her ear. I confronted him one night. "Daniel," I whispered, "are you in love with her?" His jaw tightened. He did not answer. Silence, again, the cruelest confirmation. That night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling while the storm inside me grew claws. I had given him 15 years of my life, and he had given my heart to another woman. But if he thought I would be discarded quietly, he did not know me. I watched Lydia carefully. Not as a wife watches her rival, but as a predator studies prey. She was ambitious, greedy for more than Daniel's touch. She wanted his name, his wealth, his place in the city's circle of influence. It was almost too easy. A friendship was my first mask. I approached her at a charity luncheon, wearing my gentlest smile. "You must be Lydia. I've heard so much about you." For a flicker, panic darted through her eyes. Then she laughed. "And you must be Elena. Daniel speaks so fondly of you." The lie was smooth, practiced. I let her believe I was naive, that I clung to a marriage already crumbling. And slowly, carefully, I let her draw closer. She did not realize I was gathering every weakness she revealed. Our meetings became routine: coffee, wine, whispered conversations in the back corners of elegant cafes. She confessed more than she should have, eager to parade her triumph. "He will leave you soon," she murmured one evening, swirling her glass. "You should prepare yourself. Daniel and I are meant to be." My hands clenched beneath the table. But my face was calm, serene. "That may be true," I said softly. "But love that begins with theft ends in ruin." She laughed, her earrings glinting like daggers. "We'll see." "Oh yes, Lydia. We will." Lydia had her own skeletons. I uncovered them piece by piece. A past lover who still sent her money. Debts she owed to men with no patience for missed payments. The false degrees she had used to climb into circles that never truly accepted her. And then, the sharpest blade, a company Daniel represented, a rival she had quietly sabotaged years ago, forging documents for profit. If revealed, it could destroy not only her reputation, but Daniel's career for being tied to her. I held the evidence like a loaded gun. But revenge, to be exquisite, must be patient. The moment came on a winter night. Daniel had told me he was away on business, but I followed him. My car trailed his through streets slick with frost, until he parked outside her apartment. From the shadows, I watched them through the glass. He kissed her with lips once mine, and she smiled, a smile that twisted the knife deeper into me. But then, as I turned away, something in me shifted. My grief hardened into steel. She had stolen my husband's lips, but she would cry with mine. The gala was perfect for the reveal. Wealthy patrons, judges, colleagues, all eyes gathered under chandeliers that dripped with light. Lydia was there in crimson silk, clinging to Daniel's arm like a queen about to be crowned. I stepped into the room with grace, the documents hidden in my clutch. The air itself seemed to pause as I approached. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, my voice clear, steady. "Forgive the interruption, but I have a truth to share. One that concerns Lydia." I laid the papers before the crowd. Proof of her fraud, her debts, her betrayal of the very firm that employed my husband. Gasps rose like smoke. Faces turned cold. And Lydia, her smile shattered. Her eyes filled with tears. Real tears, not the kind she used to lure Daniel. And as she wept, I felt it, the sharp, fierce satisfaction of revenge. She cried with my lips. Daniel stood frozen, shame carved into his features. He looked at her, then at me, as if realizing only too late the cost of his disloyalty. "Why?" he whispered when we were alone. "Because," I answered, "you handed her my heart. I only showed her its weight." He begged me to forgive him, to rebuild what we had lost. But love cannot rise from ashes soaked in betrayal. I left him, not in rage, but in silence, the same silence he once used against me. And Lydia? She vanished from society like a stain scrubbed clean, her name whispered only as a warning. Now I live alone in a small house by the sea. The nights are quiet, but they belong to me. I walk the shore at dawn, and with each wave, I feel a little lighter. Do I miss him? Sometimes. Love does not die easily. But I do not regret. For in that ballroom, beneath the glitter of chandeliers, I reclaimed what was mine. Lydia smiled with my husband's lips, but in the end, when the world turned its gaze and the walls collapsed around her, she cried with mine. And that was enough. Thanks for watching.